You were actually one of the first wrestlers to ever compete in a scaffold match. What were your thoughts going into the scaffold match for the very first time?
I was watching television one night, late at night. I couldn't sleep. I don't know if I was thinking about business or what it was. But anyway, I was up real late at night. And I guess you'd call it a C movie. It was 2 notches below an A movie was on. And it was these warriors fighting in a very hokey movie. But they were doing combat. It was like gladiators. And they fought out on this tree that had fallen across a big gorge. And the camera showed down, and it was very scary, and they, they fought with their swords, and finally the good guy knocked the bad guy off, and I said, that would be a heck of a wrestling match. So I started talking to people about it, and I couldn't get anybody to do it. So I said, well, shoot, I'll do it. It'll draw a big house. And back in those days, I was very motivated to draw a sellout, so I just did it myself. I talked Don Green into it.
Oh, wow. So you actually came up with the concept of the scaffold match.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was the promoter.
Oh, wow. Because whenever I think of a scaffold match, I think of, Road Warriors and Midnight Express from the mid-'80s.
No, this was long before then.
Right, yeah.
The first one was in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was between me and Don Green.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Now, you promoted several promotions in the Mid-South territory. Which one of them was your favorite to be with, or did you have a favorite?
Well, we had different names at different times over the years, but it was really all the same promotion. We were under the NWA banner, and then, that organization begun to deteriorate as territories and offices closed. And I could never get them to do business with me as far as Jerry Lawler and the title. So I, for a while, was CWA, and then I formed an alliance with Vern Gagne at AWA, and then we became USWA when I bought Levon Eric's world-class territory. And we branched out. We became USWA.
Okay.
But it was always the same promotion.
So the same territory, the name just changed a few times. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, we just, when we took over Dallas, we spread out our wings away. But it was still the same promotion.
Okay. Now, you were speaking about Jerry Lawler a few minutes ago. I just wanted to get your feelings on Jerry Lawler, and he's had a lot of legal issues over the years. Do you feel he was targeted because of his notoriety and his fame in the Memphis area?
Yeah, and I can figure out why I'm having such trouble hearing, but Jerry Lawler, I consider, and if I didn't hear your question right, just interrupt me. I consider the most talented individual that I ever worked with. And I worked with some of the great ones. Everything from Hogan to Sting to Ultimate Warrior to Randy Savage. And Jerry, to me, of that group, had the most all-around talent. He could have a match in the ring with a broomstick. You could give him 3 bullet points, and he would go out and give an interview that sold out the Mid-South Coliseum or Louisville Gardens or the Evansville Coliseum or the Nashville Fairgrounds Coliseum Arena. He was money when he got on the microphone. And then he could back it up with a great match so that I could I could book returns for a month. And that's how I felt then when I was booking it, and now in retrospect, that's how I feel. Now, there were a lot of great, great talents, but if you had to make a list, he would be at the top of my list.
Okay, now, speaking of Jerry Lawler, one of the most famous feuds in the history of the wrestling business was a feud Jerry Lawler had with the late Andy Kaufman in the Memphis area. Do you have any memories of the late Andy Kaufman you'd like to share?
No, other than that little program has taken on a life of its own. And the truth of the matter is that, it was a little novelty promotion that we did here in the territory. But, Andy was well connected, and so him getting on the David Letterman show, it took on a life of its own, but it was just a novelty thing. I did the same thing with Joe Louis, and different people throughout the years. We would try to rub shoulders with people that were stars in things other than wrestling. And but Andy is a swell guy. He loved the wrestling business with a passion that those of us who have spent our whole lifetime in it have. It was always a dream of his to be in the wrestling business, and he was appreciative that we gave him that opportunity. And of course, I was appreciative that the content of his character was such that he loved the business and was good at it.
Okay, now, who do you feel are some of the most overrated and alternatively some of the more underrated wrestlers that have worked for you over the years?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I look at talent a lot different than I guess most people do. Just about everybody can play themselves. Hulk Hogan plays Hulk Hogan. Or maybe I said Terry Bollea plays Hulk Hogan because he's playing himself. Dusty Rhodes is Dusty Rhodes, and Ric Flair is Ric Flair, and Jerry Lawler is Jerry Lawler. Most wrestlers that are superstars play themselves. And with rare exceptions. And one of those exceptions is a guy named Handsome Jimmy Babbitt. I don't know if you ever heard of him. But Jimmy is nothing. Doesn't resemble his character that he plays so well in the ring. Jimmy is an introverted, quiet, easygoing, bashful guy. But he's able to walk through the curtain and become the boogie woogie man. It's the damnedest thing I ever saw in 40 years in this business. So I guess Jimmy is, if Jimmy had been in the movies, he would have played a dozen different roles because he can truly play a role. All the other great wrestlers just play themselves. And that's good.
Now, we actually have another caller this time. The caller's from the 978. Caller, you're on the air with Jerry. Jarrett, go ahead with your question.
Hey, JT. I'm sorry. It's Mark again. Hi, Mr. Jarrett. I called in a few minutes ago. I didn't want to hog up too much time, but every once in a while I get to spend time with the Iron Sheik, and he tells me stories about back in the 70s, I'd imagine probably the mid-70s, that Elvis Presley used to come down to the Coliseum, I believe, and to watch some of the matches, and he actually told me a story one time about him, Jerry Jarrett, and a few of the other boys. I'm sorry, not Jerry Jarrett, I apologize. Jerry Lawler and a few of the other boys actually were invited back to Graceland to hang out with Elvis Presley and such. Do you have any kind of cool stories or any recollection of Elvis Presley coming to the wrestling shows?
Yeah, that was not at the Mid-South Coliseum. The wrestling used to be held at Cook Convention Center.
Okay.
And that's when I first broke into the business. And at Cook Convention Center, there was a stage, and there was a back theater. In other words, the stage was kind of in the middle. And Elvis was a wrestling fan, and he would come and on occasion, 2 or 3 times, and sit back there in the dark and look across the stage out into the arena. You know, I met Red and some of his crew. I met him. And what was funny at the time is I don't guess any of us thought anything about it. I mean, you know, here's a rock and roller that likes wrestling, and a lot of them did. I mean, in Nashville, you know, Fargo was buddies and card-playing buddies and gambling buddies and drinking buddies and who knows what else kind of buddies with about everybody that was in the business. But, yes, as far as going back to Graceland and all that, I don't know. I never went. I can't say they did or didn't. But I can say, because I met him, that he came to the Cook Convention Center on 2 or 3 occasions.
All right, cool. Thanks.
But so did Muhammad Ali.
Oh, great. All right, thanks again, Mr. Jarrett.
Okay.
All right, now, Mr. Jarrett, this is J.T. again. I have another question for you. Do you have any memories of the recently departed Skandar Akbar?
Yes. When I bought the World Class promotion, Skandar was out there. And, you know, when you're the new kid coming in on the block, it's real easy to go through I don't know what's the term I can use that's politically correct, but it's, you know, it's the bullshit period where, you know, people tell you the way they want the world to be and not the way it really is. And Skandar Akbar was a great help to me during this difficult time of my life, and he really helped point out to me, this guy has talent, and this guy will BS you, and this guy's got a coke problem, and this guy does this, and he made the transition because, I mean, it was dead. It was in bankruptcy. And it took us, thanks to Skandar, leading and pushing me in the right direction. I think we had our first full house in like 8 weeks from bankruptcy. And Skandar, of course, was a tremendous talent as a manager. But he was one of the real decent people in this business. Really first class.